This tank is a Sheridan. This is an American Tier 10 light tank, and the map is Mannerheim Line, which was previously known as Arctic region. I'm going to show you a new spotting position, and it's very interesting because you're going to be able to spot some tanks from this spotting position that you can't do from other positions. I'm going to advance so we can get there a little bit more quickly. And there's a couple different options here. And I'm going to show you this particular one that I've been testing out lately. Obviously, you got some other bushes here. For example, that one right there. You've got something really small here that would have to be a really small tank, like an E25. You'll notice that I can spot that T28 that's up there on that ridge. And I was able to spot the E50 that's crossing over there. Excuse me. Now, one of the issues with the tanks, such as the T28 that's up on that ridge, is that generally when they're spotted, they reverse. And if they reverse, you're going to spot them more. Not only will you spot them more, but you'll be able to take shots at them. Now, I have tried different positions. This is not my favorite position. I'm just saying that this is a position that you can try. Maybe you'll have great games with it. I'm not so happy with it. Here's an example of how I can hit that T28 when he thinks he's safe. And he's probably acting the way he is because he's confused as to why he's being spotted. Okay, so let's move on to the next video. This tank is the ELC Even 90. This is a French Tier 8 light tank. The map is Fisherman's Bay. This tank is very small because it was designed to be airdropped behind enemy lines. And by being small, you can do pretty good spotting, but you're going to have great camo and you're going to be able to hide in bushes that you normally wouldn't be able to hide. On this particular map, you want to be able to spot all the way to the red line in the north of the map, as well as spot into the field. Now, obviously, I was spotted along the way. It's not a fast tank, so there is a chance that you will get spotted before you get to where you want to go. As you can see, there's a lot of potential places here that you can spot. The reason why I'm firing my gun is because I believe the Scorpion was stunned, which means he's not going to spot me back. So you can see there's a lot of bushes in the area. For example, there's one right here that I just drove through. The one that I just drove through right there is a really good spot position for a rather large tank. You can spot a lot of what's going on in the middle, and you can snipe and double bush against the middle. The problem is you're not going to have good spotting of tanks heading towards the city. You can see that I was shooting at those tanks, and I did not get spotted against that CDA. And I'm not double bushing. Okay, so I wanted to show you that position. Let's move on to the next video. This tank is a WZ-131. This is a Chinese Tier 7 light tank, and the map is Mountain Pass. This is actually a pretty good tank, and I'm going to show you a spotting position that you can use on this map. And you'll be able to see what it can be used for and when it's effective. So I'm going to speed up a little bit to get there. We're going to come over to the bridge. And you're going to notice that there's a bush right here, and I wasn't spotted on the way. And you can park in this bush, and you can not only watch the bridge to some extent, but you can watch what they call the ice road. I'm going to speed it up a little bit. Now you'll notice in the chat it says I will spot ice road, so you can stay back a little. However, my allies decided not to do that. They decided to advance. Even though that T-26E5 is pointed in my direction, he knows that he's been spotted by a tank nearby, but he doesn't realize that where I am. So you can see another one of my allies is advancing to go after those tanks at the other end of the bridge. And I'm keeping this lone T-2065 spotted. Now, obviously, the enemy did not send a lot of tanks on the ice road, so we're not going to see how effective it is for spotting damage. And the other issue is that my team that advanced on the ice road is going to lose. So we're not going to see a good game, but this is not about showing you the great, wonderful games. This is about showing you spotting positions. So let's move on to the next one. This tank is the ELC Even 90. This is a French Tier 8 light tank. The map is Muravanka. I'm going to show you a new spotting position that works well for this type of a tank and tanks such as the Locust. It's a very small tank, means you can hide in a very small bush. And if you can get in a really good position, you can get a really good view of the battlefield, and you could bring your team to victory. So, as we're heading out over here, you're going to see there's a couple of buildings which are essentially on the enemy side. It's enemy territory. The CDC was spotted, and we've got a bunch of bushes over here we could choose to log in to hide in. You can see I chose this one over here. And you can do it with a bigger tank like a 5916. But with this type of tank, you can sit here and hide the whole game. And look at where I am in the mini-map, and look at where I am in the game. You can see I'm in the enemy territory. It's unlikely that the enemy will come to this location. So basically, we're going to have good spotting on the west side, and I'm letting my team know we're going to have good spotting on the west side. One of the problems with this particular game is that the only tank that's going to be on the west side might be this Tiger II. Maybe another tank is going to show up, but there's not going to be a large number of tanks to spot on this side because most of the enemy team went to the forest and most of the allied team went to the west side. So what's going to happen is the enemy team is going to kill off and advance through the forest, and then they're going to wrap around and surround our rear flank, and then they're going to kill off our team little by little. So I don't want to go through, I'm doing this to show you the spotting position, but what's important is that the game ends really cool. The game is going to end really well. So let's watch what happens to the Tiger II. You can see that as the Tiger II tries to advance, he's going to be completely spotted from this position, and the T-25AT that just showed up on top of the hill where the tower is. And you'll notice that my team is not killing off that Tiger II, even though he's clearly spotted. We've got a lot of allies that could point their guns at him, but for some reason, they're either not paying attention, or maybe they're concerned about the fact that the enemy is beating us. We're losing 1-5. The T-25AT, he's out in the open, and the Tiger II's out in the open. Why isn't my team killing him off? I don't know. You can see that a lot of my allies are pointing their guns in the opposite direction, so we've only got a few guns pointing in this direction. If we have a normal game, this is going to be a very powerful spotting position, so don't give it up. I'm going to advance the game. I'm going to speed it up. Scores 1-7, 1-8, 1-9, 1-10, 1-11. Now the enemy is starting to rush the base. And they're killing off all of my allies, but they didn't spot me. Now I'm the last guy left on the team. Doing it in the wrong speed. Let's see if we can get back to a one-time speed. Okay, there's a philosophy that if you point your gun, my gun is pointed towards the enemy, that if you point your gun away from the enemy, then you won't spot them because the spotting nodes are on the front of the gun and, of course, on the roof. And that would mean that all these tanks would disappear. But what's going on is some of these tanks know that they're being spotted, so they're not going to go looking for me. Let's get it back to normal replay speed. Okay, you notice there's a Progetto 46. He's one of the tanks that's suspicious about what's going on. And I have a plan. and I'm going to show you what my plan is. Was it the J Panther who just took a random shot? You're going to notice that the Progetto 46 is coming in my direction. The J Panther took another random shot. They're shooting at the bushes. He just shot in this direction at this bush. So the Progetto 46 is coming in my direction. They know that I'm around here somewhere. But what's important is you're going to notice that the Progetto 46 only has 2 hit points. The J Panther has 140 hit points, and the CDC has 159 hit points. Now, the smart thing to do, kill the Progetto. A lot of the enemy tanks have their guns pointed away from me. They're not really pointing in my direction. Run towards the J Panther, kill the J Panther, and get in a good line to kill off the CDC. Let's see what happens. The CDC is the next target. I kind of went the wrong way. The way I went has a lot of guns pointing at me. And I flubbed the shot on the CDC. Now, I don't use fire extinguishers on most of my tanks, so my team did put out the fire eventually, not without suffering some damage. There's 5 seconds left in the game. There's little that I can do, and that's the game. This tank is the AMX 1390. This is a French Tier 9 light tank. The map is Prokhorovka. I am going to get 6,800 spotting damage in this game. This line of tanks, the AMX 1390 and the 1375 and 1357, is one of my favorite lines of tanks. This is one of my absolute favorite tanks to play in the game right now. I'm really looking forward to leveling it up to the AMX 13105. You can see that as I came out here, I could have taken the higher bush, but I decided to go deeper into enemy territory. And this position, you'd think that it's safe, but you do have to be careful because I'm deeper in enemy territory. The enemy usually thinks that I wouldn't be here, so they might try and scout this area out. So it's very dangerous. You got to be ready to leave at a moment's notice. You can see that we've got a lot of Allied tanks on my side. And there we've got the first tank. Because I'm closer, I can spot the tanks more easily than if I had taken up the position in the E1 area. See, I've already gotten 1,400 spotting damage on those tanks. 1,900 spotting damage. So we've already softened them up a lot. My only wish is that we had been able to soften them up more. You can see that there's an enemy LTTB who is right there. He took some hits. He didn't spot me. I'm already up to 3,800 spotting damage. It's only been 2 minutes in the game. There's an UDES that showed up. You want to keep your gun pointed towards an enemy tank. If you have the crew skill designated target, it will keep that enemy lit for an additional 2 seconds. Got 4,400 spotting damage. Now the problem you have here is that it's going to be difficult to spot enemy tanks because I can't spot all the way to the red line from this position. I'd either have to move forward to a different bush or I would have to rush the field. The problem that I have is if I rush the field, my allies might still be out of range for hitting any tanks that I might spot. So you can see that I was spotted. I decided to rush the field to try and spot whatever I can. And the reason why I'm doing this is I'm hoping my allies are going to take shots at anything that I find. You want to go all the way to the red line. The more you go to the red line, the more likely, the safer you are. So I got up to 6,800 spotting damage in this game. There might even be a little bit more. When you die, any tank that you spotted is going to be spotted for 8 to 10 seconds. So you still will get spotting damage even if you die. Okay, so that's the game. I just wanted to show you how I do it. Let's move on to the next video. This tank is a Type 62. This is a Chinese Tier 7 light tank. The map is Lakeville. I am going to get 4,800 spotting damage on this map. This happens to be a great light tank. It's very maneuverable. The gun's pretty good. It's fun to play. It's easy to play. If you get a chance to get your hands on one of these and you like playing light tanks, you'll probably like playing this tank. So you notice that I'm not taking up the typical spotting position that a lot of players take. I decided to go on the other side of the lake, and the reason why is because from here you can spot that entire road. And being able to spot that entire road gives you a huge advantage. If you look at where the T-71 DA is, he's at a spotting bush right over there. He can't spot that road as well as I can. So my position is actually a lot better. I'm not far enough north, and the reason why is because the enemy has a WZ-131, and there's a good chance that he'd be able to spot me if I went further north. So I didn't want to get spotted, and I decided to take a safe position. However, I could have easily gone to a different position, for example, right there where that bush is. And from that bush, I would have been able to spot more tanks. For example, I'd be able to spot tanks on the way to town, but we're going to do fine here. It was a lot of tanks that we spotted. What's important is that we keep those tanks spotted. We let our allies shoot at them. The T-71 DA, he really doesn't need to do anything right now. Obviously, he can go and try and do some spotting or do some sniping, but he's in more danger than he's in a safe position. I've already got 1,750 spotting damage. You'll notice that when I took up this position, I tried to go down the hill as much as possible. You see where that T-26E4 is? He could easily pop out of the city somewhere and spot me. So I want to make sure that I'm not spotted by anyone in the city. You can see that the T-71 DA was killed. He was killed actually by that T-26E. He was killed by a T-26E4. There's two on the enemy team. So now the enemy decided to retreat on the lake road, which means that my spotting position isn't going to work very well. So now this is the position that I intended to go in the first place. From here you can spot almost all the way to the red line. For example, we got that Conway back there. I know that the enemy tanks are at the edge of my spotting range, so it's pretty safe for me to fire my gun. I know from playing the game that most enemy tanks under this situation, they're not going to advance on the lake road. They know that it's dangerous for them to head that way, so they're just going to sit back. So the key is, how do we advance? We want to advance little by little, turn on the binocs without getting detected. I got to be careful. We know where that T-26E4 is, so I got to be careful crossing over that road because I might get detected if I advance further north. Looking for bushes to advance to and to hide in, and to turn on those binocs. You don't have to be completely in the bush. The way I'm sitting right now is actually pretty good. You'll notice that the road is now clear. I can carefully cross over that road. And now from here I have to turn on my binocs. You'll notice he did not spot me. Let's see if my allies have a shot on him. Looks like they don't. There's still a lot of enemy tanks in the game. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. So there's 2 tanks that we don't know where they are, which could be right in front of us. So we have to be very careful. It might not be safe to advance. Anybody that tries to move in that enemy backfield is going to get spotted by me. You can see that my team is now starting to advance through the town. That tank has shown up again. He's not going to be able to move. It looks like the Scorpion also just appeared on the minimap. You can see that as soon as that Scorpion tried to advance, my ally shot at him. So he is within my spotting range right now, but there's a lot of brush between me and him that is protecting him. Being very careful about advancing. We got that tank spotted. Maybe my SPGs will be able to hit him. You can see that we no longer have snipers in the south of the map. So I'm going to have to rely on my advancing team. Now would be a good time for me to go all the way to the red line. Okay, so that enemy tank was taken out of the game. The best thing to do is stay to the right, head to the enemy backfield, find a location where I can turn on my binocs. Don't worry about being spotted, just get behind a building. You can see that one of those unspotted tanks, which is the STRV, is in the A4 area. Unfortunately, I was taken out of the game, which obviously was my own fault. I did get 4,800 spotting damage, and we're probably going to win this game. This tank is the AMX 1357 GF. It's a French Tier 7 light tank. It's also a premium tank, and the map is Malinovka. I'm going to get 4,500 spotting damage. Now, the technique I use on this map is to rush across the field, spot as many tanks as I can, and hide in a bush somewhere. You can see that I was spotted. You just return back, get over that hill. They won't be able to hit you in this position. However, the problem is it might be a little bit difficult to retake an advanced position, especially because there's an enemy AMX 1357 in front of me. Unfortunately, the web developers have changed this map to make it harder to spot. So there's fewer spotting options. You used to be able to make it midfield. There were good spotting positions. You could spot, do a lot of damage early in the game, but they moved some of the bushes back or made some of the bushes smaller so that it was more difficult to accomplish that. This is one of my favorite tanks to play. I've already gotten 1,000 spotting damage. I like the fact that it has a rapid fire gun, it's very maneuverable, somewhat small. I just wish it were tier 10. It has a good velocity for the ammunition, which means that when you fire the gun, the ammunition is going to get there a lot faster. Now, if you look at the minimap, there's only one tank within my spotting range, which is a Scorpion G, which means that it's pretty safe for me to advance to a bush that's closer to those tanks. So as you can see, I've noticed that there's a few tanks in my spotting range, so I'm advancing. I'm going to turn on those binocs, see what it finds. Every time that tank shows up over there, he's going to get nailed by my allies. So you can see I'm going to another bush, and then I'm going to turn the binocs on. You don't want to move too much. You want to try and get into position as quickly as possible so that your binocs turn on as quickly as possible. I'm going to become deadlier and deadlier for that Scorpion G. I could probably take up a closer position because the Scorpion G is probably on the other side of the hill, or possibly he left. If he's probably not in those bushes, I probably would have spotted him. If you want to know when to fire your gun, the bullet is going to land, the ammunition is going to land within that circle. So as the circle grows smaller, once the circle encompasses the tank, that's when you fire your gun. That's assuming that you don't care which part of the tank it hits. You don't have to wait for the circle to become as small as possible. I'm still going to wait for my binocs to turn on. Got more bushes I can advance into. I got good support, got a lot of tanks behind me. You can see that that MT-25 never spotted me, although I more than likely spotted him. When you play, you want to learn how to spot first and add sniping later on once you've mastered spotting. And with the sniping, you have to have an exit plan. You have to know where you're going to go if you get spotted while you're sniping. I was a little slow to find a place to hide. Up to 1,500 spotting damage and 500 damage. The score is 5-2. You can see that we're going to win this game. We've got the enemy pretty much cornered. We've got them where we want them. We've got them surrounded fairly well. The enemy has few options. The only thing they can do is wait for us to approach them. Now, one thing I can do, you see there's a lot of water in front of me. Being in the water is a safe place to be because it's the lowest part of the map. So I could easily advance through the water, go all the way to the edge of the water, and then hide on the slope. I got 2,200 up to 2,259 spotting damage now. You want to stay as low as possible in the water. And then find a bush. For example, there's one on the left. Find a bush to roll into. You can see I got a good patch of bushes over here. All those tanks are probably against the red line. I've only got 2 shots loaded. I don't like to use the APCR, which is why I don't have them loaded. I should have reloaded with the APCR. I didn't realize, wasn't properly anticipating all the tanks I would have been able to shoot. Got 3,300 spotting damage. Obviously, I want to spot that tank as quickly as possible. Move perpendicularly to him to make it harder for him to shoot at me. And that's the game. I got 1,000 damage, 4,556 spotting damage, and 1 kill. This tank is the, I don't know what it's called, the Rom Panzerwagen or something like that. It's a new tank. This might be my first game with this tank. It's a tier 10 German light tank, and the map is Tundra. First of all, I love this tank. I like it more than the Sheridan. I haven't been playing it very much, but I wanted to show you some spotting positions. So this is one of the bushes that you can spot with. Normally oh, look at that. Normally I spot along the rail and I snipe along the rail. But on this one, you can see that you can kind of spot the same tanks in the same position. You can have one guy on the rail like that Lorraine 40T. You can do the spotting and he can do the sniping. So that's one of the bushes that you can try. It's not going to get you a lot of spotting damage, but what's important in this particular map, it's hard to get spotting damage on this map, is that it gives you a position where you can spot the tanks that are going west, take some shots at them. So if you have a derp gun or an autoloader, you can do a bit of damage. Let your allies see what to expect. If your allies are in sniping positions, they can do some damage, etc. Now, as you can see, I know when the enemy has left their base, and now there's nobody here. So I'm kind of free to go along the back of their base. And if you spot the enemy, you just keep on running. I mean, what are they going to do if they spot you? You can see there's one of the enemy SPGs. There's another enemy SPG. He's got 4 hit points. Okay, so I just wanted to show you the spotting position that you can take shots at the tanks as they're crossing over the road. If your allies are with you, they can take shots at those tanks also. And you know when the tanks have passed, so you know when their base is empty and you can go in and get on the rear flank. This tank is a WZ-131. This is a Chinese Tier 7 light tank, and the map is Westfield. I'm going to get 9 kills in this game. And it's going to be a very classic game. It's what's going to happen is we're going to be down something like 2-7, me and one of my allies, and there's going to be something like 7 or 8 enemy tanks, and they're basically going to come in one at a time, which is going to allow me to kill them all off with the assistance of my ally, the SPG, which will be the Hummel. So the first thing that I do is I come out to this spotting position. And there's a couple of different spotting positions that you can take. And the reason why I decide to take this one is because you do get shots on the tanks as they're driving across. You can see that tank has already taken some damage, so they will get spotted coming across. And your allies in the south will be able to take shots at them also. There's a lot of shots that you can take as these tanks are going across. So you're going to soften them up for your allies. Part of playing this map is you really want to make sure that your flank wins as quickly as possible, because if the heavy tanks win, then you have to work twice as hard to clean up the mess. So one of the things that you're noticing is we don't have a lot of tanks where the heavy tanks are. We only have the KV-85 fighting in that area. So we're likely to lose in that area. And our tanks in the south, the medium tanks, didn't go very far. So I'm not happy with what's going on. I want to take up a better position. I want to kill some tanks and spot some tanks. You'll notice that there's a Jackson here. When you go up over a hill, you always want to try and crest through a bush. It would be nice if I could damage that tank. Unfortunately, I might not be able to. So it's important to try and track as many enemy tanks that are slow as much as possible, especially if they're heavily armored. It allows your allies to do damage to them. You're going to notice that the heavy tanks won up on the hill. So because they won, we're going to need to spot them as they head south. We're going to need to have a spotter to just watch the field and watch them as they head south. even if there's no bush to hide in, you have to stay in a position where you can spot for your allies. And there's only a few allies, the T-67, the SU-100Y, your SPGs. Okay, so over here I found a bush that I can spot from. Got to do as much damage as possible to these tanks as they're coming down. You want to prioritize any tank that's close to your base, such as that tank right there. Now, the reason why I moved far down the hill is in part because there's enemy SPGs in the game, and you want to avoid the enemy SPGs. Got to get to that spotting position. Scores 3-6. Easy kill. Missed it. Got to roll back because of the SPG. You want to be in a position that the SPG is going to be difficult to hit you. Now the AT is showing me his side armor, which means I should be able to get some damaging shots. Hopefully he'll be out of the game. That's 2 kills for me. My team is mostly at the base area. We've got a lot of enemy tanks. There's a lot of ways that I could play this out. But I want to spot for my team as much as possible. You can see that there's a tank spotted behind me. Going to stay as low as possible so it's difficult for him to shoot at me. And he's out of the game. So obviously he was tracked, which prevented him from turning his gun towards me. I still have most of my hit points. Now in that short amount of time, there's only 2 allies left in the game. 2 allied SPGs, and I've got 3 kills. So now I have to go. I'm looking on the minimap, and I see that most of the enemy team is going to be coming from the southeast. So I'm setting up a spotting position. Going to let my allies damage them as much as possible. Hide amongst the buildings. The SPGs are going to be shooting at me. Keep on moving. Stay within the buildings. We see we got an enemy tank there we could shoot at. So the SPG may have hit that Panzer, we don't know. What I'm doing is I'm spotting, hoping that my allies will do any damage to any tanks that we see. I'm waiting for the enemy to come in. Wait for him to get behind that bush before you fire at him. If he's behind the bush, he's less likely to fire at you. He's less likely to spot you. Hopefully my allies will take out that Stug. They did a lot of damage to him. I can do the kill shot. Want to stay hidden as much as possible. So I missed a shot on that Panzer IV. Because I was spotted, I want to get into a safe position surrounded by as many buildings. You can see that I'm putting the enemy, trying to find a way to make it so that it's difficult for them to shoot at me. Basically, okay, so that tank just died. This one I'm going around, but because that tank is there, I need to turn right in order to avoid him, or turn towards the buildings. So I was able to take out that Stug. I got to stay alive. My priority is to stay alive in this game. I got 6 kills. Let my allies hit that T-67. So the T-67 might get a shot at one of my allies, might get some kills in. I'm going to go in and help my allies out as best as possible. Missed. Unfortunately, I missed. Okay. Okay, so I got to keep on moving to avoid the enemy SPG. I got, the score is 13-13. I got 7 kills. Now we have a situation here. 7 minutes left in the game. What's the proper strategy? The proper strategy is you want your SPG to head to the enemy base. Whatever happens, it's better for your ally, your SPG, to be near the enemy base because there's a chance that he might have to cap to win the game. And because of the amount of time it takes to get there and the amount of time it takes to cap, you want that SPG to go there as soon as possible. My idea was to go scout out that enemy SPG. I do tell my ally to head for the enemy base, but he's not going to do it. One of the other issues is we don't know where those enemy SPGs are. And one of those is actually headed towards my base right now. And we're obviously going to find that out the hard way. You'll notice that I'm moving away from the enemy tank so that it lessens the chance that he spots me. I'll be able to keep him spotted, but I want to be far away. And I still have to find that other SPG. One of the issues is you can see where the SU-122A is, but I think he's going to get away from me. At the time, I thought it would be very easy. I'll just go up to that same spot and find him. But when I went up there, I couldn't find him. So I decided to go after the, oh, there's an SPG right there. He should have gone to the enemy base, which should have been the proper strategy for him, but he didn't do it. So he's going to become an easy kill. Now the SU-122A, he's headed towards my base, but the question is, where is he? And am I going to be able to find him before he gets there? I thought, you know, for sure he's a slow tank. Easy to spot, hard for him to hide. I thought I'd be able to spot him. So I come up to here where he was last spotted, and he's not here. So now I get a little bit worried. I'm thinking, where did he go? He could have gone to try and force a draw, which would have been up in the A1 area. Or he could be headed towards my base to try and take on an SPG or to try and cap or something like that. So as I was saying, I was really concerned. We've got 4 minutes left. It would have been better if my allied SPG had headed towards the enemy base. It would have been safe for him to do so. I'm assuming that the enemy is trying to force a draw, which is why I'm scouting out in this hilly area over here. And I was very confused as to how he was able to get away so quickly. I waited too long to advise my ally to go to the enemy base. I just advised him now. It was too little too late. It should have told him 3.5 minutes ago. So if you play SPG and you're in this situation, you want to have a strategy of going to the enemy base. The person who's pinging on the map, okay, so there's the SU-122A. He just showed up. He killed my ally. However, the SU-122A is no match for me. He's going to be an easy kill. I'm going to speed it up a little. He's not going to be able to get away from me. Got 3 minutes left to find him. And that's the game. Got 9 kills, 1,700 damage, 1,000 spotting damage. This tank is the AMX 1390. This is a French Tier 9 light tank, and the map is Fisherman's Bay. What I'm going to do is I'm going to head for the east side. I'm going to look for a nice position to spot enemy tanks from. And hopefully we're going to see enemy tanks in the midfield, and hopefully we're going to spot enemy tanks on their way to town. Now, one thing that I've noticed since this map has been redesigned is that the enemy tanks, particularly in the north, they really don't like to go to town anymore. I have too many games where tanks don't go to town. And there's a lot more tanks that are playing on the west side if they're heavy tanks, or playing in the midfield. Now you can say this is a decent location. You can spot almost all the way to the red line, but it is possible to get through. You might want to knock that truck down in the future before you settle in for a spotting position. But the other thing that you can do is you can fire at tanks in the midfield if you want to, and keep them spotted. So you can see that what I'm doing is I'm trying to go and get behind the enemy lines. Because I was spotted, they know that I'm going in this direction. You definitely want to kill or destroy any tanks that you can along the way before you get there, such as that one right there. You don't have to wait till you get all the way there. If you see a tank that's vulnerable, take them out of the game. So I did spot a Type 4 Heavy, and I decided that I didn't want to engage him in combat. So you'll notice that right here is another interesting spotting position. You can sit in these bushes, spot a lot of tanks, and keep track of them for your team, which might be in a better position behind you. You can see there is a Type 4 Heavy right next to me here, who I'm running away from. Now, right now, the enemy knows where I am because I am a spotted tank, so I do have to be careful. I only got 710 spotting damage. You can see I'm advancing to a new location. It's a little bit closer to the enemy. They're not going to expect me to be here. Watching the enemy to see where he's going. If he's going too far away, then I'm going to advance when he's as far away as possible, watching him on the mini-map. If he's going further away from me, then I can advance. So obviously I ran into a big problem in that the RU-251 had snuck behind me, and he's on full health. Now I'm obviously going to go into the buildings as much as possible. The more I'm in the buildings, the safer it is for me, being surrounded by solid objects. You can see the RU-251 ran away. The Type 4 Heavy is pretty much a one-shot. I noticed that there was an STRV, so I changed to the direction that I was driving. So as I was driving away, I was checking up on where the enemy tanks were, make sure I'd be able to make a clean getaway, because I only have 32 hit points. Trying to keep buildings between me and the enemy, because I was just spotted. Now you'll notice that the enemy tanks are not spotted. It's pretty much my responsibility to spot those tanks. So I'm looking for a way to spot them for my team. Unfortunately, I don't have a clear shot on him, so I won't be able to do anything. But I can advance forward a little bit more. The score is 5-2. We're having a winning game, and I do have 1,700 spotting damage. One thing, okay, that tank's out of the game. I don't know if the Maotian did it, but if he had loaded a high explosive round, it would have been better for him. Because I only have 32 hit points, I am going to stay a little bit more in the background as opposed to being on the front lines. And I'm going to have to stay hidden, basically, is what I'm doing. Doing whatever it takes to stay hidden, keeps my gun in the game, and I'm going to have to spot less often. The score is 8-2, so we are probably going to win this game. But surely if I get spotted, I'll be taken out of the game. You can see by looking at the mini-map that there's 3 tanks spotted, plus 2 SPGs, plus 1 more tank that has not been spotted yet, which appears to be a tank destroyer. And there he is. That was the last unspotted tank. I don't count the SPGs, but they've just both been spotted. Okay, so there's only 3 tanks left in the game. I'm going to fast forward. And that's the game.